In 1993, when Dazed and Confused came out, 1976 felt like a very different era. It seems like 2024 film set in 2007 wouldn't seem nearly as jarring as the film's jump. Why do you think that is? Technology, primarily. If you look at how fast technology evolved each decade from 1940 to 2010, it was absolutely insane. From 2010 to 2024, it's not been so much of a revolution as it was previously each decade, and more of an evolution. The next big revolutionary step in technology, I feel, is going to be the integration of AI, automation, robotics. But I feel that will be at least another 10-20 years from now. And after that, I don't know what the next great leap forward would be that would be life-changing across society. There are a number of theories out there that we've become culturally arrested. We only look backwards. We have no sense of the future. In the 20s, they dreamed about flying cars and portable phones. In the 50s, they dreamed about space. Today, we mostly dream about things that already exist. It depends on how you look at culture though. Technology has changed the way we think and act enough that you could call that culture change, even though it would be hard to romanticize or capture on film. It could be because you're older. If you think about what it was like to be a teenager in 2007, you didn't have a smartphone. The internet was not as accessible. Social media wasn't really a mandatory thing. Children today have access to TikTok and an entire world of social media and scrutiny that the children of '07 didn't. That on top of the post-pandemic world that we live in makes being a teenager, or a young person, very different from the way it was in 2007. Perception of time is something I'll never understand. As a child of the 70s, whenever I look back at pictures of an event like, say, the day of the Kennedy assassination, it seemed so different and so far in the past. But now, as an adult, it is disorienting to consider that it was less than a decade before I was born. Even today, it feels crazy to me that 2004 was 20 years ago, as it hardly feels that distant. Getting older is very strange. Fashion, I think, is the big thing. Even people who didn't care about what they wore in the 70s still adhered to trends because they were so all-encompassing. That's all you could buy. Fashion is way more fractured now, and people rarely dress up or follow any trend that defines an era. Some for sure do, but it's minority compared to the larger demographic. Whereas in the 70s, pretty much everyone looked like they were in the 70s. I was very young in the 70s, but that decade broke the mold. There's no mistaking it, no duplicating it. You know it when you think about something as simple as a suit. Actually isn't impacted by fashion that much, especially in the mid-upper income range through the decades. But holy fuck, the 70s. Dudes, let's all wear giant ridiculous butterfly collars to church. Wild. One of my favorite decades. 1976 had no technology to speak of. Even by 1993. That felt very dated. The progress in the past 2 decades feels more incremental by comparison. So, less jarring. Also, if you lived the experience of Dazed and Confused, you've evolved through the period 2007-2024. Many who saw DC in 1993 hadn't evolved through the era of mid-1970s. It was foreign to them. This depends heavily on the age of the viewer. Also, the most jarring thing about Dazed and Confused is not that time jump. It's the setting from the point of view of urban dwellers. If I showed the path of teens on a Friday night in small town America today, American graffiti, Dazed and Confused, Friday Night Lights, etc., or in 2007, it would have much the same effect. In 1993, I couldn't easily listen or look up a video from the 70s. Now I look up random shit from when I grew up in the 2000s every day. The internet has made time slow in some ways. It's also made cultures more homogeneous. I travel a ton and half the time forgot what country I am in when I wake up because hotels, restaurants, foods, etc. is so similar now. Pre- and post-internet are entirely different worlds. The internet flattens time and space. Subcultures and trends get zero time to develop organically before they get hoovered up, packaged, aped and sold back to us. You'd think that would produce more variety and change, but instead it stifles, flattens and turns everything into the same grey goo. So for perspective, The first iPhone was released in June of 2007, so a movie that takes place in the first half of 2007 would be void of smartphones. Social media wasn't popular. Music was still on CDs. Rock and metal were on the radio, and people still listened to the radio. I think it would be more jarring than you think. I think it's because of things like the internet. People are able to and still do interact with old culture with a lot of frequency, while back in the day when something passed, it was basically gone. I think this has caused cultural progress to become a lot more inert. Kurt Anderson's Evil Geniuses posits the theory, vastly oversimplified here, that 80s deregulation led to monopolies and oligopolies that have effectively stultified new trends and consumer choices, mass production and marketing that crowds out innovation and new ideas. Smartphones and smartphone cameras have introduced a type of homogeneity across the planet. Honestly, even when I travel now, it can be hard to tell that you left home. For example, a microbrewery with hipster beards is available in any country with minor variances. 'Cause I get older, and the kids do not seem to stay the same age. The term prostitute is a thing for a reason. You have 16-year-olds with implants, fillers, shapers, etc. that look 24 and have the social savvy of a 30-year-old. All wrong. This does not answer your question. Dazed and Confused is essentially a remake of George Lucas' first film American Graffiti, which came out in the 70s, but took place in the 50s. I suppose it wasn't as jarring a change though, but I'm not that old. Same problem with Back to the Future really. Marty today would go back to 1994. A white heterosexual Californian wouldn't really find a lot of difference other than wow, gas is really cheap and wow, cell phones really suck. Watch Drive Away Dolls in theater this week. It takes place in 1999 and has retro feel. I still feel like 1999 is not so long ago. I definitely don't feel like it has that 70s versus 90s gap for sure. Culture was changing a lot faster then. The difference between 1950 and 1970 is even bigger. In contrast, you wouldn't know the difference between the year 600 and the year 800 in most places. The eras weren't too different from each other. Like the internet was still a thing, but we were just slightly less connected to it. The clothes and cars weren't all that different either. I don't know. As a 31-year-old, when I watch movies like Mean Girls or American Pie, it brings me right back to the era I grew up in, and it doesn't feel anything like 2024. The first iPhone was released June 29, 2007. While cell phones and texting were common, having the internet always available wherever you go was not. I could be wrong, but I feel like 1976 cars and fashion compared to 1993 cars and fashion had a way bigger gap than 2007-2024 cars and fashion. I was a HS freshman in 1976. When I saw that movie, I asked myself, WTF is this? Nothing in my experience was as depicted in that. It's a similar deal with GTA Vice City 2000 to taking place in the 1986. That would be equivalent to a game today taking place in 2008. You experienced 2007 to 2024. If you weren't around in 1976, then you didn't feel how 1976 transitioned into 1993. Smartphones were around by 2007. I think having a gluttony of video documentation makes an era seem less alien. I think your premise is completely incorrect. 2007 was a wildly different time compared to 2024. That's the thing I like about eras. They keep changing. I stay the same man. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's what I love about these 2000s, man. I keep getting older. They feel like the same age. Cultural change was just moving a lot faster in the period 1965-1995 than it has 1995 to 0 to 5. You never really come back from the first time you get high, I guess.